Hey you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back to another Project Life Process video. So in this week, I am going to be doing, I believe it's week 23, so let me double check. Yep, it's week 23, so this is the first week of June, and I was actually out of town for Squam Art Workshops. It's an art retreat that I've been attending for quite some time, and this time I actually attended and took pictures for them. So I was kind of their photographer, and I was loved, of course, always loved going, and it is quite an adventure. So I want to use Ali Edwards Adventure Kit for this one. So I was just kind of pulling everything out and looking through the cards. This is something that I want to add. This is a little embroidery thing that I created while I was there. And so I'm thinking about also using this adventure kit for my New York trip, which was the next week after this. So trying to figure out what things to save and what things to use. Like I think I want to use this on the New York trip. I have ideas to maybe put these on top of the photos, and I think it will go really well for the New York trip. So I'm going to save those, and I think these as well, because I like how it says Adventure 1, Adventure 2, Adventure 3. So I'm going to put these aside. But I've just kind of been looking through everything else and trying to decide what I want to use. Really loving the colors this time, and really just love the theme. It's such a great one especially for the summer, but you can use it for anything. There's a lot of sentiments that talk about, you know, daily adventure and today's adventure. So there's always stuff going on in our life that can be used for that. So you can see that I just pulled out a couple of these 4x6 cards. I really like this. Not sure if I'm going to do this or if I maybe want to do this and use this. Haven't yet decided there. I actually have 2 more photos that I need to print out, so I'm going to stop this and go ahead and do that. And then I'll just jump back on here and get started, see where it goes. All right, so you can see the first thing that I've done here is I printed out 2 more photos, just like I said. And then I went ahead and cut out that embroidery piece that I created. And I just used my larger cutter. I tend to do that with heavier weighted material, so it cut through 2 layers of fabric really awesome. And I was just going to cut out with scissors, but I thought that if I cut it using a ruler, that it would be more helpful in getting that to actually fit in the pocket. But you can see that I had to trim it down a little bit with scissors, and then shoving it in the pocket took a little bit of time, but I definitely was able to get it done. I do end up moving that around, which unfortunately I have to shove it back into a pocket. But like I said, it actually is a lot easier than it looked. So the next thing that I was doing is looking through the cards, and I'm considering the stories that I wanted to tell. And I was like, you know what? I really could do an insert. There's definitely probably more I mean, I have a ton more photos. I could print some more photos. So I grabbed over this 6x8 pocket, and it has the 4 3x4 slots in it. And I just started pulling out cards that I liked from Ali's adventure kit and throwing them in the pocket. I was really thinking about cards that had spots for journaling and stories that I might want to tell, and also some of the quotes and things that I thought would go really well with this week's adventure stories and things that I wanted to tell that went on from this week. But as I was putting those together and kind of thinking how I wanted to lay everything out, and I was looking at the tags, I decided actually that I did not need to do the insert, and you can see in a minute that I'll just put it off to the side. And really, I thought the stories that I want to tell, I can really tell with those. I think I ended up using 4 tags, but I really felt like the stories that I did want to tell from this week did not need to be elaborate, and really were kind of simple stories that would definitely fit on those tags. So I felt like that was enough for me to have those tags with a little bit of journaling and then my photos. So as I'm trying to figure out how I want to incorporate these tags into the layout, I felt like they were just a little too big to put on top of my photos. And I really loved my photos from this week, and I didn't want to hide them. I didn't really want to hide anything. So I was thinking of different ways I could add the tag on top of either the photo or one of the cards that would enable me to move it out of the way. So I was thinking of just using washi and creating a flip, but I knew that that washi would just rip off over time and that it would not be secure as people like flipped it up. And so I pulled over these large brads that I have. I've had them for years and years. You could probably get them at any office supply store. And I was thinking that I could puncture it through the plastic. And then if I wanted to see the whole photo, I could just slide the tag out of the way and then I would be able to see the photo or the element that was underneath. But as I was doing that, I was thinking that those, the brad, that metal is really thick and it would be moving underneath as well, or would have the potential to move. And I thought that if I did that, it might rip the image over time or ruin the image or the card that was underneath. So I decided not to do that this time around. And I think it would be a really fun thing to do in the future if I could maybe figure out a way that I would, could possibly secure that brad. Maybe I could have added washi to the back of it just so I would keep, I would cover up the metal and I would keep the metal from actually moving, but the tag would still move. So that might be something I could do. Maybe I will try that in the future. Definitely would be cute on a scrapbook page that was not going to be a pocket page setup sort of a thing. So that might be something to look at as well. All right, so you saw that I took the photo, or it's actually the camera, and I used Allie's, I think it's the St. Helens ink. It's kind of like a beigey green color. And I went ahead and I stamped that all over, did a repeat stamping. And the reason why I wanted to incorporate that camera is because I was there for this week to actually take pictures. So I wanted to get that into this spread. I do actually talk about, I'm like, did I even mention that in my journaling? But yes, I do. Because one of my favorite things that went on during this week, because I've been to Squam at least 10 times. And one of the things that I thought was really different from this week to other weeks that I've attended, I felt like I was able to meet so many people because I was roaming around so much and going to all of the classrooms and just had a lot of more people in front of me, so that I was able to speak to a lot more people. So that was one of the things that I wanted to highlight from this week to make it different from the other weeks that I have experienced while at Squam. All right, so you can see that I'm just grabbing over some grabbing over the chipboard set and looking for ones that would work. I love that chipboard that says something about you cannot get bored when a world looks this beautiful. That is that orange long piece of washi. And I thought that would go perfect with that photo because that is definitely what I think of when I see that photo and I remember being on that dock and watching the sunrise. It is something spectacular. Definitely something that I love about Squam is watching that sunrise over the trees and over the water. All right, so I'm moving on to work on that photo at the top with my daughter with those two images. And what those photos are, it's probably hard to tell in the video, is one of the photos, she has her braces on, and on the other photo, she had her braces off. So she got her braces off that day, which is the very beginning of summer, and she could not have been happier about that. And I was trying to find a stamp that said before and after. And at some point, I actually turn off my camera and start looking through all of the literally all of the stamps that I have. And I cannot believe there is not a stamp set that has a before and after. So maybe it's just something that I missed, but I don't have it. So I am sending out a request that someone make a stamp set that has a before and after, just because I was wanting to put it underneath. And I end up not, I couldn't find one. I didn't want to print one. So I just decide not to have it. It'll be obvious. And I was thinking about writing it in actually right under the photo, but I actually totally forgot to do it. And it's fine with me. Like I'm totally happy with what it looks like, just being plain. But I'm throwing a request out there for a before and after stamp, because I think that would be really useful. I found a lot of right nows and here, and but no before and after. So if you guys actually have a stamp set that has it, let me know. I would definitely be interested in it, because there's always opportunities to tell those kinds of stories, especially in project life. So you can see that I pulled over some ribbon. So I have a couple different options for neutrals or some blacks. And this one is like a 3/4 of an inch chevron. And then I have a smaller one. I opted to go with the larger one just so it would be a little bit more bold. And I'm going to put them on all the tags. I was just kind of testing it out to see if I actually liked it and wanted to use it, because it's definitely going to bulk it up just a little. But I did end up really liking how it looked. I also, you can see that I just went ahead and did the title card. It was just very simple. I just put the stamps there at the bottom and then just added that star chipboard. I love that die set with that little small star. I just find that there are so many uses for it. So at this point, I think I'm finally going to get to that card and finish it up. But I was looking through my stamps because I knew I wanted to stamp on some of those tags, especially the one that said destination, because I just needed, you know, the 2 words. So I thought that I'd be able to stamp on there with that. And I'm just going to be adhering these photos down, and then I'm putting the tag right there in the middle. Kind of loved the way that tag, loved how that tag was kind of sandwiched in between. I also pulled over a stamp from the stamp set, and I can't now remember what it said. I think it said something about maybe everyday adventures or something like that. It was definitely an everyday sort of sentiment. But I went ahead and inked it all up. And before I stamped it, I thought, you know what? I would like to have it be the date so we knew exactly when that was. So I decided to just use my date stamp and just stamp on the dates, because it actually happened on Monday, the 4th. So now I'm going to be putting on the ribbon, and I'll end up, I think, cutting it down some. But instead of tying it, because tying definitely adds a lot more bulk, I just kind of sandwich them together and then use the staple to keep them so they don't fall out and so they stay in place. And then I'm just going to slip it in, and you can see it's that simple. I actually considered maybe doing a white border, but I left it. I just decided to leave it and keep it as it is. Really loved the way it turned out. So I have this small stamp set that came from Ali Edwards' Story Kit Type. I think this stamp set is going to have a lot of uses. I love that it's on this smaller size, and I was testing it out to see if I'd be able to fit this entire word. I think it has five letters. So with this stamp set, I'm guessing maybe 5 is going to be your limit, unless you don't mind cutting off maybe a little bit of each of the letter. But I'm spelling out Squam Lake. I was thinking about doing Squam art workshops, but I was, you know, workshop is obviously really long, and I was thinking about how I would maybe alter that, but ultimately just decided to do Squam Lake because that is the destination, was at Squam Lake in New Hampshire. It's absolutely gorgeous. If you guys ever get a chance to go there, go there. It's really beautiful. I'm sure Lake Winnipesaukee is just as beautiful, which is right next door. All right, so sorry, you guys, I'm totally getting off topic, but I don't know what I was thinking. I just like stuck that tag down on a white piece of cardstock, totally forgetting that I had already stamped the background. And then when I found that card, you know, that card that I actually stamped on, I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. Because when I put it in and it was just white and cream, and I was like, this doesn't look right. Why did I think it would look different than this? This seems really stark. And then I was like, oh yeah, I already made a stamped background. So one of the things I have found when I'm working on my project life is I've got stuff all over the place, and I am setting things aside, and I'm always losing stuff. At one point, you will see that I lose one of my stamps, and I could not find it for the life of me. So I had to like totally change my plan, and then I end up finding the stamp, but you'll see that coming up. Anyway, that's just one of the things that I deal with when I'm working on my weeks, is that I'm always losing stuff. So maybe I need a few containers in front of me that can hold stamps and can hold these little elements so I do not lose them. All right, so I'm just going to be doing a little bit of journaling. Like I said, these stories did not need to be elaborate this week. I didn't need to tell a very long story, and so these tags fit it perfectly. And I love that the sentiments that are actually printed on these tags really became great story prompts that kind of helped me think about and really pull out the stories that I wanted to tell from this week. So I really liked that part of it as well. And that's one of the things that I love about Allie's cards in particular is she always has such great sentiments that then become story prompts that really help you to be able to tell your story or to flush out stories that maybe you would not have thought of otherwise. So I liked that part of those tags. All right, you guys, so I'm wanting to deal with that tag that's all on its own, so it doesn't have anything behind it. And I want to do a see-through element. And I thought it would be really cool to use the stamp set. There's a stamp that says Always Adventure. And I thought it would be cool to stamp and heat emboss. So use a white heat emboss so it would be really clear on some acetate. And this acetate is called Hot Off the Press. It's definitely made to heat up. You don't want to just do it with any acetate because it could probably melt. So you definitely want one that you can add heat to. Anyway, in the process of pulling everything out and setting everything up, I totally lost my stamp. So you'll remember when I was talking about it before that, like, I don't know where it went. So I was really frustrated, but I wanted to use that stamp anyway because I thought it would be really cool that you could see through to the other side. And the next week I went to New York. So it just would go great, right? So because I couldn't find it, I decided to use the digital version and just create a digital acetate. So I just printed it right on top of some acetate after doing a repeat in Photoshop, and then printed it out and cut it out, and there you go. Well, I didn't really love the black. I thought the black was just really, I don't know, I guess against the ribbon, I just didn't like it. I really wanted it to be white. And you know what? Luckily, I found that my stamp got stuck on the back of that hot off the press packaging. So you guys, I literally can't even tell you how long I was looking for that stamp. Like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I was so frustrated, but I actually found it stuck on the back of hot off the press when I started cleaning things up. So I was like, oh, I can do it after all. So you'll see in a minute that I'm actually, I think it's the last thing I do after I complete this entire spread, because it's really almost done. I think I'm just like cutting off some of a little bit more of that ribbon. But I actually then go through and create it. You can see that I'm like trying to decide what else to do because I didn't really love the black. Thank goodness for cleaning things up because I was able to find the stamp and then do what I want. At this point, I'm looking like, what other stamp could I use? But I did actually find my stamp. So here you go. This is how you do it. You need, like I said, some acetate that can deal with heat. So hot off the press. I'll have a link below. You can just get it on Amazon. I grabbed over my Versamark ink and then my pouch, my anti-static powder tool that has a bunch of powder in it. Probably you could use something like cornstarch. And I made sure that I had a lot on there because I've done this before, and this acetate is so staticky, everything wants to cling to it. So if you put a ton of that powder on, it will not stick to it. So put a ton of the powder on, and actually the powder allows you to, like, it kind of pulls up some of the powder so you can see exactly where you stamp. So that's kind of another reason to put more powder on there. And then I just poured over some of the embossing powder. This is Hero Art's white embossing powder. And man, it just looked super cool. I was really glad that I was able to find that stamp. And then I'm just gonna, I put some heat to it. And right now what I'm doing is I'm kind of wiping off that powder so it looks more clear instead of kind of foggy, because, you know, that powder kind of left a residue, and it just wipes right off. So it's super easy, but you definitely want to wait until the embossing powder has dried, or you kind of smudge it. So just wait for it to dry. It only takes a few seconds, then you can just wipe it off. Anyway, you guys, super happy that I was able to finish that off the way that I wanted to, but I am completely done with this spread. super happy about the way this turned out. It's simple, but it's got some fun elements in there. Oh yeah, one last thing. I ended up moving some photos around. I'm not really sure what I was thinking, why I wanted to do it, but I ended up doing that. Oh, and one other thing that I ended up changing, when I actually took photos of this, I realized that I wanted the tag that's on that photo. I actually put it just on the other side of the photo, so it's kind of covering that island that's in the water, but I liked it there better. I felt like it felt a little bit better when I actually moved it when I was taking the photo. So anyway, there you go, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Really hope you're able to get some inspiration. Hopefully you guys can do something fun with those tags, maybe like an interacting element in your project life. You guys can show me how to do it. Anyway, you guys, if you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you've not subscribed, please consider doing so. And you guys, we will catch you in the next one. Bye.